Hello, everybody. Now, the Labour government is on its way to creating even more of a police state in the United Kingdom with another piece of dreadful draconian legislation, which is couched in terms that makes it sound like they're on your side when clearly they're not. Now, this is the Crime and Policing Bill, which they have just introduced to Parliament this week. And the worst thing about it is that it is going to allow police for the first time to enter anyone's home without a warrant if they suspect that there is an electronic item like a mobile phone or something with an electro geotagging system on it that has been stolen and that is in your home. Now, if you think that the police are going to use this just for locating stolen phones, then I have some magic beans to sell you. Because what's happened here in the country over the last 25 or 30 years is that successive governments have allowed criminality to prosper and flourish all over the country, particularly in our large metropolitan areas, but now it's spreading out around to smaller towns and cities as well. And this is all due to migrant crime, or mostly it's due to migrant crime. But of course, the MPs, the reporters on the mainstream media, the police, the judges, the magistrates will never admit that. In fact, they will try to suppress anyone who suggests that the increase in criminality that we've had in the UK over the last 30 years is anything to do with mass rapid immigration and many people coming into the country whose intent is not benevolent, but their intent is nefarious, and much of it is criminal. This has gone on, it's festered, and it's a classic problem, reaction, solution scenario. They've created the problem by allowing migrant crime to go through the roof, and especially it has done over the last 5 years. And now when you hear the mainstream media talking about the crime and policing bill, and what they are couching it in terms of is that there's an epidemic of phone snatching, an epidemic of bag snatching, an epidemic of shoplifting. Oh my goodness, we need to do something about this. Well, yes, we do. The governments and the police and the judges in this country should have done something about it 30 years ago. But they're now creating a reaction which is being propagated in the mainstream media, telling you there's all these dreadful things going on. Everybody knows that this country is not as safe as it used to be. In the 90s, this country was known as one of the safest countries in the world. And London was known as one of the nicest, safest, most pleasant metropolitan areas in the world to live in. 30 years on, here we are in 2025. It is the exact opposite. It's dreadful hellhole of crime. This has been allowed to fester, and now they're bringing in the solution. We need police to be able to go into someone's home without a warrant. Now, this is very dangerous because we have in this country the saying, an Englishman's home is his castle. Okay, and that applies to Welshmen, Scotsmen, and Irishmen as well. And I'm sure that all around the world you have that understanding. Your home is sacrosanct. No one should violate the borders and the boundaries of your home unless it's perhaps an officer of the law who has a warrant from a judge, from the court, to give them very good reason to go into your home and search for something to investigate a crime. This has been the understanding that we've had for centuries. And now this is going to be broken by the crime and policing bill that says, well, this is a problem that's been created, and now we need to give the police the powers to go into someone's home as they wish without a warrant, if they suspect that there is a stolen mobile phone or a stolen piece of electronic equipment which is geotagged, and they can go in and search your home. But it's worse than that, actually. Let me look at the actual wording of the bill here. So this is in section 93 of the Crime and Policing Bill. Actually, it's a huge long bill that has 137 sections and is 317 pages long. And this is the trouble with bills these days that go before Parliament. No, in the old days, you look at bills or legislation, they used to be quite short. They would be 2 or 3 pages long. This is 317 pages long, and it covers, essentially it's like 137 different laws all put into one bill, and they're going to pass them all together. So this is section 93, which amends section 26 of the Theft Act 1968. It's titled "The Electronically Tagged Stolen Goods Search Without Warrant." A constable whose rank is at least that of inspector may authorize a constable to enter specified premises, search the specified premises for specified items. Authorization can only be given if there are reasonable grounds to believe that the specified items are stolen goods, they're on the specified premises, etc. Okay, next thing. And this just goes on in that section. And there is electronic tracking data indicating the specified items are or have at some time since they are believed to have been stolen been on the specified premises. So this sounds like, okay, they're actually helping you out here, because there is a big problem with phones being stolen. There's now electronic tracking, and so this is being presented to people by saying that we need this in order to help people whose phones have been stolen. Okay, sounds good, but it's fundamentally changing the relationship between the police, the state, and individuals, and violating the idea that an Englishman's home is his castle. You cannot go and search someone's home or enter someone's home as a police officer unless you have a warrant from the court. And it says, of course, there the next thing, an authorization, this is from an inspector to a run-of-the-mill police constable, may be given orally or in writing. So they don't even need a written note from their superior officer to be able to go and search a home. They can just turn up on your doorstep and say, we're going to search your home without a warrant because we suspect there's something in your house which is stolen. I don't have any written authorization. I've got oral authorization, and I'm just coming to inspect your home and search your home. Now, if you think that isn't bad enough, it goes on and it's even worse. So where a constable's lawfully on the premises, etc., the section applies instead of section 19 of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act. So this is talking about seizure of the items which they suspect have been stolen. But it says the constable may seize anything which is on the specified premises, whether or not it is a specified item, if the constable has reasonable grounds to believe it's stolen goods, or it's necessary to seize it in order to prevent it being concealed, lost, damaged, altered, or destroyed. So essentially, a constable or a police constable or police officer can come to your home without a warrant and seize anything, not just a stolen phone, which is what it's being presented to you as, but they can seize anything on your property and take it away, and then you may have a very large problem getting that back if actually it's not stolen goods and you didn't have stolen goods on your property, and they've just seized your electronic devices or other things in your home, and it'll take you months and sometimes years to get that back. I mean, a friend of mine, I won't mention her name, but this was a well-known case. She's a media reporter, a journalist, and she had her electronic devices seized from her home in the south of England, and it took over a year to get them back. And that caused untold misery and suffering and inconvenience to her and her kids and her family. And so this is really, really bad here that this is giving the police the powers to do this, do you think this is not going to be abused? No, no way. Come on, if you think that, then you're really too trusting of the government and the police and the state, and you're far too gullible to believe that this is being done in your best interest. Look, the police already have the power to go in and search homes with a warrant if they suspect you of having done criminal activity, and they can still catch criminals if they want to with a warrant. The thing is, they're not bothered too much about catching ordinary, run-of-the-mill criminals who are guilty of theft or criminal damage or burglary or these kind of things. They are absolutely obsessed with catching people who have said something on social media that they don't like, whether it's lawful or not. And, there's a lot of things which are now being declared unlawful or illegal, which actually should fall within the remit of free speech because of this burgeoning edifice of hate and hate speech and stirring up hatred and all this kind of stuff that successive governments have pursued. And now you have the situation where someone like Lucy Connolly, who's been put in prison for over 2.5 years for a social media post, which was just expressing an opinion. Okay, not a very nice opinion, of course, but just an opinion which was posted on X for 2 hours and taken down. And she gets more time in prison than an ex-Labour MP who actually physically assaulted someone, punched them in the face and knocked them to the ground. It's just got 10 weeks in prison. Or people who've got pictures of children on their phone, like the BBC presenters, Hugh Edwards and so on, who haven't got any prison time at all. We've got clear two-tier justice in this country. And this is going to make it worse because the people who are going to be targeted by this, I fear, are not actual criminals, but they're people that will be set up by some order by an inspector to say, oh, I don't like what this person said. Go and search their home just in case there is a stolen electronic device in their home. The police can turn up without a warrant, go into your home, search it, and seize any devices that they want, whether or not you're actually guilty or not. Now, it sounds good, but my fear is in the police state where people are obsessed with hassling and causing actual fear, harm, distress, and harassment to people who are designated far right. Not that anyone is far right in this country, but that's just what the powers that be smear people as. This is going to be used against people who should not be investigated by the police at all. So this is very, very dangerous. And that's just one of the sections in the bill. That's probably one of the worst sections in the bill. But the other very controversial thing is that the Labour government wants to bring back ASBOs. And they're calling them respect orders. Now, ASBOs, as you probably know, became a massive joke in this country. They were introduced by Tony Blair in 1998, and they're antisocial behaviour orders, and they became almost a badge of honour to kids who did something wrong. They'll go around saying, I got an ASBO, I've been to court, the judge has said I can't go here, or I can't talk to this person, or I have to go on an anger management course, and they just do it and have a big laugh about it. So, kids or whatever, or young people, maybe, well, not necessarily young people, anyone who is behaving in an antisocial manner that they don't want to give a proper criminal sentence to, they just want to give them a slap on the wrist, they give them an ASBO. And and this is meant to put restrictions on people, like bail conditions for people who haven't been convicted of a criminal offence. So they haven't been taken to court and charged with a crime, but yet the court or a judge or a magistrate in the court has actually put a penalty on someone even though they haven't been charged with a crime. And this is very dangerous again, because we have the understanding in England under common law that you can only be punished if you've committed a crime that has caused harm, injury, loss, or damage to another living man or living woman. That's the fundamental principle of common law. So Asbos here brought people before the courts and put restrictions on them and conditions on them, even though they haven't committed a crime. And that's what's really dangerous about it. Now, in 2014, the Tory Lib Dem coalition that was in power at that time actually did one thing that was actually good, was they got rid of ASBOs and they replaced them with criminal behavior orders, which did the similar thing, but they said you had to have been convicted of a crime first. So the criminal behavior orders were for people who had, been found to have committed a crime, but it wasn't a serious crime where there was criminal damage or theft or anything like that. It was people making lots of noise or people aggressively begging in the streets or something like that. And so they're convicted of a crime and, criminal damage, etc. Vandalism is another thing. Now, to be honest, I think if you vandalize something, you should be given a proper sentence, not just a criminal behavior order. So this is something that gives you, it's like probation essentially. They give you conditions. You have to do this, and you're not allowed to do that. And if you breach those conditions, then you go to jail. Okay, whether that's the right thing or not, I don't know, but it was only applied to people who had actually been convicted of a crime rather than people who hadn't been convicted of a crime. So these respect orders are now amending the Antisocial Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act 2014, which brought in criminal behaviour orders, and adding to them again respect orders, which are like ASBOs. So now again, you can get a respect order that will require you to do certain things, like go to a course, or prohibit you from doing certain things on an individual basis, such as not going to a certain place or not associating with certain people, even if you haven't been convicted of a crime. And I think that is really wrong, and that's fundamentally repugnant to common law, because you should only be punished, if you like, or given conditions or an order to do something if you have been convicted of a crime, not if you haven't. And that's the danger of it. So, as you know, it says the court may give a respect order to anyone aged 18 or over. Whoops, where are we going here? I'll just put the next slide up. If the court is satisfied that the respondent has engaged in or threatens to engage in antisocial behavior. So, this is a thing. What is antisocial behavior? Now, no one likes antisocial behavior, but the court should only be able to do this if someone is engaged in criminal behavior and has been convicted of a crime. That's the difference, and that's what is very dangerous about this, because, again, it creates a police state, if you like. And the police can then accuse you of engaging in antisocial behavior, go to the court and get your behavior restricted. You can argue that, okay, that this is necessary to make life more pleasant, and I'm not against that, but it's got to be done in the right way. And again, going back to what I said at the beginning, a lot of the antisocial behavior that we see, which is associated with drugs, gangs and things like that, comes from migrant crime. There's no getting away from that. And we've had 30 years of successive governments facilitating mass immigration, and many of the people coming to the country have criminal intent. They're not doing anything to stop the flow of migrants coming to the country who may commit crime. There's still 50,000 a year plus coming across the English Channel illegally. Legal migration is through the roof, and not everyone who comes legally is here to start a business or to bring scarce skills to the country. I mean, I'm not against that. Not that there should be any scarce skills, because in a country of 70 million, if we do things right, we would be able to train enough of our own people to become doctors and nurses and engineers and plumbers and electricians and bricklayers and carpenters and all the things that we need to be done that are scarce. okay, at the moment, we have a situation where this is a problem and we need people to be coming into the country to do those kind of skilled jobs. That shouldn't be the case, but it is. But along with that, there's a lot of people coming who are going to work in Turkish barber shops, for example. And you all know what that's about. I don't need to say anymore, I don't think. And until we sort out the roots of the problem, making a law to bring back ASBOs in the form of respect orders isn't going to make any difference at all, particularly when, again, you've got the people in positions of power in police, in the police forces, in the judiciary, who are saturated with cultural Marxism, and they won't give a sentence, or probably won't give a respect order to someone if they have a protected characteristic under the equality law. This is how it is. So we need to deal with the fundamentals of the problem and deal with migrant crime and deport migrant criminals. And then a lot of the antisocial behavior that we see will disappear. That's just the fact of it. You may not like it. The lefties, I'm sure, won't like it. The Labour government, I'm sure, won't like me saying that. Neither will the mainstream media or the cultural Marxists in the police forces, but that's just the reality of the situation. So this bill here, this crime and policing bill, is another monster. And it's another thing that is going to bring us closer to a totalitarian tyranny. And it's something that needs to be resisted because it's addressing artificial problems that have been created through negligence, or actually not just negligence, but actually people actively trying to make the country worse so that they can bring in this kind of totalitarian tyranny into the country. What a good crime and policing bill would do would be something that gives power back to the people. For example, putting strict conditions on, or even prohibiting the police being able to use facial recognition technology in the public space where people are being identified without their knowledge, let alone their permission. And that is something that is really harmful to the relationship between the people, the citizens, and the state. The state is now routinely abusing people's privacy with facial recognition technology. And they're doing it again under the auspices of, oh, we need to do this to keep you safe. Again, addressing a problem which they've created themselves because they've allowed criminality to fester for 30 years without doing anything about it, because the police forces have become far too politically correct and are not focused on cutting real crime. They're focused on arresting people who have offended somebody who has hurty feelings. So the whole thing is really a big can of worms, and it needs to be stopped and repealed, just like everything that this Labour government is doing, and probably like everything, almost everything going back to Tony Blair's time. Probably all needs to be repealed apart from one or two things. But there we go. Anyway, thank you for listening, everybody. I hope this has been useful and informative, and gives you a reason why you should be aware of this new bill coming through Parliament, the Crime and Policing Act, and why we need to repeal it when the Heritage Party gets into power, which we will do in 2029 with your help. Thanks, everyone. God bless you all.